Previously on Real Talk TV.
What's your suggestion? What should be my movement? Integrate, where you still own the government, you still own the train station, the railroad plant.
Community. This is an ideal situation, and that is not what happens with Asian American businesses operating in black communities.
What that does, it makes the other groups enriched. They now are living off of two incomes. They live off of 100% of their money and 98% of our money.
Sitting at this table has brought my community nothing but misery, pain, and suffering. This table. I'm out of here.
Welcome back to Let's Art Studios. Sitting at this table has not been a pleasant existence to the collective of Black America. One reason is that many groups often excuse, deflect, or simply gaslight us about our American experience.
Hear me clearly. America is not a racist country. I first saw him shooting. He shot a woman, he shot a deacon, he shot another woman, and then he went in the store and started shooting again.
10 people shot dead and live-streamed the attack that is now being investigated as a hate crime.
This was pure evil. It was straight up racially motivated hate crime from somebody outside of our community.
In much of the Democratic Party, it's now fashionable to say that America is racist. That is a lie. America is not a racist country.
In the video, 3 longtime veteran Wilmington officers who've been on the job since the late 1990s, think about that, decades on the force, are heard saying some truly vile and racist things. With one of them flat out calling for a race war. This is a police officer who's been in there for decades. Quote, "We're just going to go out and start slaughtering them effing N-words. I can't wait. God, I can't wait." The officer adding that a civil war is needed to, quote, and I quote him here, "wipe them off the effing map." That'll put them back about 4 or 5 generations.
Well, no, I don't think America is a racist country, but we also do have to speak truth about the history of racism in our country and its existence today. And I applaud the president for always having the ability and the courage, frankly, to speak the truth about it. He spoke what we know from the intelligence community. One of the greatest threats to our national security is domestic terrorism manifested by white supremacists. And so these are issues that we must confront, and it does.
What about the plight of minorities in the US? What about the rampant racism? Again, a stoic silence, which only goes on to indicate 2 possibilities. Number 1, America thinks it is above all. Number 2, the American truth is too bitter to confront. The crisis runs too deep for those sitting in America to dig it up annually. US President Joe Biden was recently asked his views on racism. He said, and I'm quoting, "I do not think America is racist, but I think the overhang from all the Jim Crow and before that slavery have had a cost." His deputy said the same. America's first black vice president, Kamala Harris, said this, "I don't think America is a racist country, but we also do have to speak the truth about the history of racism in our country and its existence today." Now, first of all, these statements contradict themselves. Why say something so assertively only to follow it up with a but? As for the truth, here it is. America has one of the worst records in the world on minorities. No matter what its leadership tells you, the country is systematically racist, and we will show you that on this episode of Gravitas Plus.
Find me a part of America that's not racist. I'll move today. I'll wait.
So I'm here not only to shame the devil, but I'm here to wake up the masses to step into our true potential away from this American matrix. And to do that, we must. American integration, a historical checklist of past and present misdeeds. Let's get into the next topic on our list.
It was the official policy of the United States government until 1968, in my lifetime and the lifetime of 90 senators who serve today. The official policy of this government was to help white people buy homes and to deny that help to black people. And because the federal government had set the standard, private lenders enthusiastically followed in Washington's lead.
It's been more than 50 years since the Fair Housing Act outlawed discrimination in home buying, but more than half a century later, minorities continue to have a harder time purchasing homes than white Americans.
Has the Federal Fair Housing Act simply failed America?
It's failed America because it's never been enforced by any presidential administration.
Systematically, over many decades, government policies that encouraged mortgage companies to lend only to white borrowers cut the legs out from underneath minority families trying to build some family wealth. And the result has been exactly what you'd predict. It's contributed to a staggering gap of wealth between white communities and communities of color today.
2017, the home ownership rate of black families in the U.S. was 44%, compared to 73.7% for white families. According to the Brookings Institution, wealth is defined as total assets minus total liabilities. In 2017, black wealth in this country amounted to about 5% of white wealth, even though their income was about 60% of what whites made. The disparity in wealth is because, according to Forbes, equity from homes is the most consistent way to build wealth in this country. But without the same advantages, black people were boxed out of the best opportunity to gain generational wealth for almost half a century.
This goes back almost 90 years now, when the federal government got together with bankers and they literally determined which communities would prosper and which would not. And literally they went in, they drew red and green lines around every community in America, and the flow of capital followed suit. So if you lived in a red zone, it was exceedingly difficult to get a home loan, even if you were creditworthy.
Black and brown folks who are trying to fight this, what can you do? How do you fight this?
Right. Well, you have the right to file a complaint, but that has proved to be a weak remedy.
Yeah.
There are alternative lenders, minority-owned banks, community development corporations, credit unions that have started to try and fill the gap. But our study shows that the scale of the problem is enormous in contemporary America, and there's about a 20% approval rate differential between white applicants and black applicants.
Mortgage discrimination didn't end in the 1960s when formal redlining policies were abolished. It didn't end with the tightening of mortgage rules following the financial crisis. Lending discrimination is still alive and well in America. In 2015 and 2016, nearly 2/3 of mortgage lenders denied loans for people of color at higher rates than for white people. This problem affects both big lenders and small lenders, and it's nationwide. Minority borrowers were more likely to be denied a mortgage than white borrowers with the same income in 61 different cities across America.
Have things gotten any better?
There has been progress around the margins. There are communities in American suburbia that are more integrated than others, but those are the exceptions. 20 major cities in the country in our study fell into the category of extreme segregation, meaning 40% of the population would have to move in order to achieve a measure of meaningful integration. That's how far we are from living together.
We talk about it so often, but we are so segregated in this country in a lot of ways, and that your all's investigation certainly points out.
So do you get the picture yet? If not, I suggest you research the rest of this list, then ask yourself, when is enough enough? One more thing. I want to speak to the triggered who have implicit bias about Black America and are too lazy to look at this nation's history. Look at the topics we've covered. What do you expect out of a group of people coming from that condition? Seriously, what do you think emerges from that type of setup? For decades, the federal government and banks redline your community out of home ownership, and at the same time, that very same system gives business loans to another community to drain wealth out of yours. It is inevitable. What group do you know can come out of decades of mortgage discrimination and predatory capitalism unharmed? And let's not forget the decades of trauma prior to this, because I'm sure we certainly didn't heal, nor were we ever compensated for that.
After the Civil War, black people started making communities where they could accumulate wealth. Organizations like the KKK and white supremacists decided that didn't get to exist. Places like Black Wall Street, Rosewood, multiple others were burned to the ground and everyone was killed. Anyone that survived, all of their information was burned inside their houses. When black people went to the banks to retrieve their money, to rebuild everything, the bank said, no, all of their bank cards have been burned. They couldn't get their money back. All of those banks still exist and still have all their money, and it's all accumulated wealth. White people from that particular time in that area were able to get their money back. This is why reparations are necessary to atone for our actions. We literally created poverty on purpose for multiple people.
Are there any trends within the black community, such as higher crime rates or higher illegitimacy rates, that could explain their position vis-a-vis whites? And can those be explained by some dominant social group?
No.
No to the first one, or the
no
second one?
No to both.
So there's no.
I mean, there's a propagandistic mechanism that's afloat about, black illegitimacy and black criminality. I guess it depends on what kind of crime you have in mind. If we think about which community in the United States has the highest degree of history of violence, that's unquestionably white Americans. Unquestionably. I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware of the 100 massacres that were conducted between the end of the Civil War and World War II that were directed against black communities throughout the United States, in which thousands of blacks were killed and the white terrorists appropriated black-owned property. So there's no segment of the population that has a greater history of violence than white Americans. So when you talk about these kinds of matters to me, you're actually mouthing a set of propagandistic claims that are made on the right in the United States, and they do not have a foundation in fact.
So again, I ask, what do you expect? We haven't had time to heal from the covert and overt tactics of white American supremacy. We have unaddressed trauma, anti-black coping mechanisms, and generational curses that surely develop due to decades of being without.
It's like, if you got people that are saying like, this is authentic black culture, this is real black culture. And again, I'm mad about it because I'm like, if we weren't put in bondage, if we weren't thrusted in chains, if we didn't go through slavery and Jim Crow, if we weren't marginalized economically, over multiple generations, a lot of this shit that you all are saying is black culture wouldn't be. And again, I keep the same smoke for white people when they get to bitching about, and niggas is this, and niggas is that, and niggas is doing this, and then they start bitching. I'm like, fuck you. Because your people created this situation in this scenario. What the fuck did you think you were going to get out of depriving a community of capital and resources? What type of culture did you think you were going to get? And you on standing there and acting like, despite you all not having the resources, you should be able to act and behave like, and you again. I hope there's a whole bunch of shit that y'all can't stand and that rubs you the wrong way. I hope that you do have to be confronted with that shit and have to deal with that shit. Look, I don't like it either. But I'm saying, y'all standing there and act like, y'all didn't have a hand in that shit. Them on that shit.
Imagine for a moment, what would these black towns look like if they were never destroyed by white American men? What were we as black Americans robbed of? As a nation, we were robbed of generational wealth, jobs, industries, self-autonomy, security, schools, colleges, property, land, agriculture, infrastructure, sovereignty, independence, and ultimately freedom. You can also add intact families, community values, and knowledge to maintain both. If Black America was left alone to continue to self-actualize, our innovations in food, technology, healthcare, fashion, travel, and entertainment would have dominated and enriched the world. So what is it do I want for us? I want Black America to pick up where we were forced off. I want to see our collective full potential realized. We owe it to ourselves to finish what our ancestors started and to make sure their sacrifice was not in vain. In my opinion, the mission for self-autonomy, freedom, and justice for all Black America has not been fulfilled. I'm not here for reparations. I refuse to let these dangle that carrot over my head. And more importantly, let's be honest, that money would end up going right back into this wicked system. I'm here mainly to wake my people up from the brainwashing and conditioning that we've been subjected to all our lives, so that positive change can finally come for our nation. Self-actualization, economic self-reliance, and the restoration of the nuclear family unit is the goal. And to do that,
we should own and operate and control the economy of our community. You would never find, you can't open up a black store in a white community. White man won't even patronize you. And he's not wrong. He got sense enough to look out for himself. And you who don't have sense enough to look out for yourself. And the white man is too intelligent to let someone else come and gain control of the economy of his community. But you will let anybody come in and control the economy of your community. Control the housing, control the education, control the jobs, control the businesses, under the pretext that you want to integrate. No, you're out of your mind.
To save yourselves and survive, you got to go out and start rebuilding communities. You cannot get power and wealth unless you have communities. Everybody in America have communities except us. We do not have one single solitary black community in America. All we got are black neighborhoods. Bruh. A black neighborhood is like a bucket with a hole in it. It won't hold anything. You can pour water in all you want to. A community, to be a community, must have three elements in it to have a community. You must have a wholly independent economic structure with people in there who are producing goods, services, and jobs and business opportunities for their own people. 2, you must have a code of conduct that teaches you how to support and buy from those people who you live with and look like you. And 3, you must have some governance or some organization that will speak for you in politics.
That dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare.
So, where has this so-called integration left us 50 plus years later? Well, from a bird's eye view, I've concluded that the longer black America stays in this burning house, the more our values, principles, and culture goes up in smoke. History has proven that our quality of life has been strategically undermined due to our enemies' bigotry, jealousy, and fear of collective black prosperity. It's time to separate. Their media doesn't help, their music industries don't help, and their fake, manipulative, I'm the real victim reverse racism tactics is exhausting. I'll end it with this question. When has white America ever been held accountable for their sins against black folks living in America? It's time for a change. Let's get it.
The only solution is separation. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that this can be brought about simply by letting our people be exposed to the truth about ourselves, about the white man, about our history and our condition in this country. And once we are exposed to the complete truth about things as they actually exist in this country, the masses of black people will choose complete separation from this entire system, political system, economic system, social system, and whatever other aspect or description adjective you want to attach to it. Let us go back home to our own people, live among our own kind, and solve our own problems ourselves. And if the white man doesn't want us to go back to our own people and live in our own country, then since we can't get along together in peace on this country with white people, let us separate part of this continent, migrate to that separate territory, let the government give us everything we need to establish our own independent economic system and society, and thereby we'll be able to solve our own problems ourselves and prove that we are human beings and a part of the human family and can do for ourselves what other humans have done for themselves. And then we'll be able to stop blaming the white man for what he has done and stop begging the white man to solve our problems. We'll be able to solve our problems ourselves.
If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoy my content and want to see more, there's many ways to support the channel. Check out the online store, check out the comic books, or you can make a donation or become a patron. Thanks for watching.